Hello, I warmly welcome you to my channel. Today we will deal with another mathematical topic. I will show you step by step how to deal with calculations that are often difficult. Regardless of whether you are studying for a final exam, or you just want to understand mathematics better, you are in the right place. If this video is helpful to you, I encourage you to leave a like, subscribe, and click the bell. This is the best way to stay up to date with new materials. And if you want to additionally support my channel, you will find a special support icon under the video. Just click. Every form of involvement really makes a difference. So let's take a look at this task. Here we are dealing with two fractions added together. It should be noted that we have a variable x in both the numerator of one of these fractions and the denominator of the other fraction. This complicates things a bit for us because in order to solve it correctly, we would have to simplify this expression somehow. At this point, of course, we could replace x with some numbers and keep inserting them until we get the correct result. For example, we could now insert a 10. 10 halves here, which would give us 5, plus 8/10 is not 5. So we didn't get it. So we could come up with more numbers until we get our result. However, to solve it correctly, you need to use a slightly different method. I suggest writing this 5 as another fraction. Yes, we have x here divide 2, plus 8 per x equals 5 divide 1. In this way, we will be able to multiply the equation written in this way, as if it had a common denominator, the common denominator of all these expressions is 2 multiplied by x multiplied 1. And we will do it now. That is, we will multiply by 2 multiply by x multiply by 1. That is 2x. This equation will look like this. I will do it for you. 2x multiplied by 2. 2x multiplied by 8 by x. Equals 2x multiplied by 5 over 1. Look that in each expression in each of these fractions 2x appeared. We can now reduce these fractions. And we will get numbers like 2 halves is 1. So here we have x squared to the second power. Here we cancel x and enter 2 multiplied by 8. Or plus 16 equals, on this side we have 2x multiplied by 5 or 10x. This is divided by 1, but anything divided by 1 is just that anything. So 10x under 1 is 10x. Now let's transform this equation. And some of you probably already see that we will get a quadratic equation here. A quadratic equation is characterized by the fact that it can have two solutions. If up to now you have maybe come across some number and you are happy with the result, this is a half victory. Because most likely this equation has two solutions. How do we know this? If we have a polynomial and at the highest power of x there is a 2, it means that it can have two zeros, two solutions. If it was a polynomial of, for example, 4th degree, this 4 would mean that this polynomial can have as many as 4 solutions. Of course, if you are interested, we can count such equations someday. How many solutions they have, what solutions? But in the meantime, let's solve this quadratic equation. I propose to do the so-called factorization here. That is, look for what two numbers multiplied and summed will give these two numbers. For example, what would it was if we multiplied 2 and 8? We would get 16, and that's okay. And what if we added this number, we would get 10. And unfortunately, this doesn't fit into the equation, because here we have a product. And here we have a sum. So to do it correctly, you have to reverse the signs. Here you can see it at this point, because two multiplication factors with a minus sign will give a plus. And two of the same sign factors with minuses added together will give a minus. So minus 2 multiplied by minus 8 is also 16, and that's okay. And minus 2 plus minus 8 is minus 10, and that's also okay. Here we have minus 10. Here we have 16, so we can write this quadratic equation as a product of two factors. X minus 2 multiplied by x minus 8. And equals 0. Let's not forget about this 0. Now, if we have such a product notation of a quadratic function, then we have to remember that the 0 places, that is, solutions of this equation, are written in a special way. Namely, next to each factor, next to each solution, there is a minus. So, for example, here as we see it, by 1 is 2 and x2 is 8. However, of course not, you have to remember this. You can, however, think about this part because we have a certain mathematical operation here. When we multiply two factors, we get 0. This means that probably one of them is actually 0. So, for example, this is 0 times whatever here comes out 0. Or this is 0 times whatever here comes out 0. So we can calculate it simply by equating each of the factors to 0. And here we have a check that x is 2. And here we have a check that x is 8. If you got that right, then congratulations. These are two correct results.